Claire's father bought us this house. I wanted to pay for it myself. That's all that bothered me.
You weren't bothered to let him pay for the first campaign?
Well, it's politics. It's different. You take money wherever you can get it. This was our first home.
Was it a happy home? I thought you brought me here because we were going to cut through the bullshit.
Look, this book is supposed to be about America Works.
There is no book without you at the center of it. Do you trust me? Or don't you? Because if you don't, get someone else to write it. Or write it yourself.
You don't know what it's like to go through life looking over your shoulder, having secrets no one would understand.
I didn't write my first book. My friend.
He wrote it.
First half. He didn't show it to anyone except me. In the hospital, he asked me to destroy it. I told him I would. It's too good. It needed to be finished, so I finished it.
And took all the credit.
Oh, yeah. It's my part, the ending. That's what people remember. But the book. It's all based on life.
There's tulips buried under here. Claire planted them. I've always been ashamed. She said yes when I asked her.
Why?
I don't think I deserve it. I can tell you this, though, there would have been no White House without Claire. I was half the man before I met her. But still, I've been selfish. Feeding off her the way I have.
She knew what she was getting into.
She knows me better than I know myself.
Sir, your schedule fly at 6:15.
Thank you. Scribble.
Okay, let's start now again. How you doing? We had some problems yesterday, so we're just starting again this today. I'm just going to check up everything's working all right. Wait till I get some picture on my side. Okay, let's start now again. Okay, perfect. Right. Yeah, we tried this out yesterday and had a big brain fart going on with the sound, so yeah, I decided to do it today instead. So what we're doing today is just doing a video on quitting alcohol being simple to stop. We've done a few videos on this before, on this concept, and you know, the whole concept starts out with the decision to quit drinking alcohol. It's a binary choice, right? You've either got you stop drinking alcohol or you don't stop it. You put the alcohol into your mouth or you don't put it in. And it can't be any simpler than that. You know, when you're making a decision to do something else, let's say you're trying to lose weight, there are so many decisions to make. You know, what exercise you're going to do. Are you going to go to the gym? Are you going to do it in the street? What clothes are you going to buy? What food are you going to eat? What you're not going to eat? How many calories should you burn? How many calories should you eat? You know, all of these things require different levels, and it's going to take. It takes different actions for different people, so different contexts. Where, in this case, the same with quitting cigarettes, it's one choice. You don't put the alcohol into your mouth, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So everything else is about changing the habit. So, you know, the actual stopping drinking part of this, how you stop drinking alcohol, the part where you actually stop drinking alcohol, I can't teach you that. If you don't know how to do that already, how am I going to teach you that? You know, I can teach a 4-year-old how to do that. I can show a 4-year-old, and they understand straight away what to do. So there are people who, when they do stop drinking alcohol, or when they try to stop drinking alcohol, they've been drinking that much alcohol that they need to have medical attention before they stop. They have to go and see somebody. They have to go and get into a bed somewhere where they're getting more medication in order to help them stop having seizures or DTs or any of that stuff, right? But that's a very, very small minority of people. And, you know, when you look at the broad picture of this isn't happening because you've automatically stopped drinking alcohol, because you suddenly stopped drinking alcohol. This is happening because of all the alcohol that you've been pouring into your body since before you stopped. I mean, the sudden stop then is the catalyst. It's the thing that starts off the process. But, you know, let's get real here. It's not anything to do with the fact that you stopped this. You know, if you hadn't have been drinking so much in the past, then it wouldn't have happened like this. So, but as I said, there's a very small minority of people who this happens to. You know, the human body is really resilient. You know, the human liver is one of the few organs that will regenerate itself, and, you know, takes so much abuse. It's the same thing as the brain. Just takes so much abuse. It will take so much abuse before it starts to give any problems. And this is the reason why people can drink for so long without them showing any physical signs. But and this is, I suppose, after you've stopped drinking alcohol, you suddenly start to realize that it wasn't just about the physical problems. You know, when you look back on your life and you've wasted 30 years of drinking, you can start to look back and say, well, you know, time is the thing that you, you just haven't got anymore. So this goes when you stop drinking alcohol. Alcohol is something which should be left in your past. It should be something that is, it has nothing to do with it anymore. When you drink alcohol, you're using alcohol as a tool in order to change your emotions in a certain way, to get you from feeling one way into feeling another way. From unrelaxed into relaxed, from being anxious to not being anxious, from being sad to being happy. Sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't. But there's always a long-term cost to pay for that. And the more you do it, the more habitual that becomes, and the less you're able to rely on normalcy. I always give the example that when I started drinking first, when I started drinking seriously first, it was because I was trying to overcome shyness. The first few times that I drank was always about peer pressure. I think that's for most cases. You're a young person, a very young person in some cases, and you're trying to be a person that you're not. A young kid is trying to be a man. A young woman, a young girl is trying to be a woman. They're trying to grow up before their time, and that's one of the avenues that you take. For us in the West, alcohol is the gateway into adulthood. But it's only it's a very ephemeral gateway. It's in Ireland we were able to drink when we were 18 years of age, but the brain isn't fully functioning, isn't an adult brain, isn't capable of acting like an adult until you're 23, 24 years of age. Those parts of your frontal cortex are not fully developed until you're that age. So everything, your planning and decision making, all that kind of stuff is all not fully developed as a consequence of that. But when you start out, so I started out with the shyness. But the problem is that when you use alcohol, you use an external solution, and I say solution, with tongue in cheek, in order to solve an internal problem like shyness or anxiety or anything like that, then you become dependent on that because you're not developing the skills that you need in order to overcome that. Because it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to walk into a bar and hand over a five whatever it is, $5, get a few pints, and I'm talking about when I was a kid, not now. Get a few pints in you, and automatically you solve the problem of being shy. But you're not solving it long term, so it becomes a habit. And the only way to then deal with your life and to get away from alcohol is to get away from the alcohol thinking, is to break down the habit, and that's got nothing to do with the alcohol. The alcohol is now in the past. You're not dealing with the alcohol anymore. And that's the mistake I think most people make, is that they focus on the alcohol. They focus on, the alcoholic being sober, all this bullshit, where it's nothing to do with the alcohol. So, the further down, we said this in last week's live stream, that you can dig yourself into a hole, and the further down that hole you go, the further it is to get back out again. The more you have to climb, and that's probably one of the the reasons why there is this. The more you drink, then that's the analogy. The more you drink, the more contexts that you drink, the more situations that you drink, the more problems you try to solve with alcohol, the deeper you're digging that hole. And I'm not talking about deep as in going straight down. You don't do that. People say, well, you hit rock bottom, but it's not like that. It's like you're going down into one of these Vietnamese tunnel systems. That's what you're digging. You're digging down and sideways and across, and then down again, and maybe up again, and eventually you just get lost. You're digging that far, you don't know what way is out again. And that's one of the biggest problems of people who are trying to stop, because they don't know how to deal with real life anymore. They don't know how to deal with life without alcohol. So that's when the complexity comes in, because they have created a problem which is so complex, and it's of their own making. it's of their own digging, you know, and people don't get that. So, you know, I hate the comparisons. I hate the talk about alcoholic. I think it's just these are comparisons which are completely harmful to you as an individual. To if you're trying to build yourself and build a life that is valuable to you, then calling yourself an alcoholic is detrimental to that, because it's holding you back. It's putting a straitjacket around you. Calling yourself sober is the same thing, because you're linking yourself to something which is in your past. You know, it's like, you know, if you change your life, if you're losing weight, go back to the weight analogy, and you're trying to change your life in that perspective. If you're obese and you're afraid of all the consequences of being obese, you have to make certain choices and certain decisions that are going to bring you back to a normal weight for your size, or a normal weight that is, you know, it's going to take you out of that danger zone. It's going to bring you back into expecting a normal lifespan, expecting a normal quality of life. You know, hopefully when you get to that stage, you're working yourself so that you're increasing your lifespan, you're increasing the quality of your life. But you would never do this if you got to that stage and still refer to yourself back as an obese person. And that's a similar thing to what people are doing when they call themselves an alcoholic, or they continue to call themselves sober or in recovery, right? You know, I think when you're doing this to yourself, what you're doing is you're keeping yourself in that victim mentality, you know, and you shouldn't be doing that. You know, self-help, self-discipline, you know, when you're trying to make big self-change in your life, you've got to turn that around. Instead of being the victim, you've got to start thinking about becoming the victor. You know, you've got to go on a power grab, and that means that you're pulling in as much power to yourself as possible. In your own, I don't know if we talked about this last week, the locus of control, where whether you've got the external locus of control, where you think that you're controlled by other things outside of yourself. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you know, there's certain amounts of things that are we're all susceptible to. You know, everyone has to pay taxes. Everyone's got to abide by the laws of the land. So there are certain outside controls that you have, and you can't get away from that. But there's also a choice between whether you think that your self-control, your ability to control yourself, is internal, or whether it's external, whether it relies on yourself and your thoughts and your behaviors and your rituals and all these things that you develop yourself in order to keep yourself moving forwards, or is at the mercy of a situation, a context, an environment, a person, whatever it is, but it's outside of yourself. The more you have an external locus of control, the less change you are capable of, you know, and the potential is always there to change. You know, if you can change over to an internal control, and you can take control of your life yourself, then that potential is there. But the potential is eaten away by these things, by having that victim mentality, by thinking about yourself as being an alcoholic. So I think, you know, your reason to stop is one of the most powerful things that's going to keep you going and separate you from the alcohol in the beginning, right? Why you're stopping. I think children, if you've got children, whether they're young children, especially if they're young children, because you can see, if you know, human beings are we've got this unique ability in the animal kingdom of being able to view our past and to evaluate ourselves on our past, and to be able to project ourselves out into our own futures, and to see the consequences of what we're doing in the moment, of our thinking, of our actions. And we can also do that with our children. You know, you can look forward in life and you can think, well, kids are taught more through experience, more by seeing, than anything that you ever will say. You know, you're the biggest role model in their lives. You know, for me, my son, as a father, I'm the biggest role model. in my son's life. And so everything I do is under scrutiny. Everything that he sees me doing is under scrutiny. Even now, and he's 30, he's 30 this year, but especially when he was a kid. And I didn't realize that. I didn't think about it too much, I didn't think that, one day this kid is going to grow up and follow my footsteps. And probably I didn't think about it too much because I thought that was the natural way of things. I drank because my dad drank, and he drank because his dad drank. And it wasn't about volume or, whether or not I was an alcoholic or any of that stuff, right? You don't think about that. This is the way that we operate on a cultural basis when we want to relax, enjoy ourselves, celebrate, commiserate, anything like that. Like I said, it becomes like a black hole, and there's so much of your life becomes revolving around this particular thing that is annoying. So it was the big thing that changed me when I stopped drinking was my son, because I suddenly realized what I was doing and how my relationship with him was going to be in the future. And there was a certain set of circumstances at that time that led up to that moment. And, as I said, I could see myself and I could look out in the future and think to myself, well, this is going to be our relationship. And that was when sort of, really scary time. But it changed the way, and I'm ever grateful for that moment that I got that insight into myself. But, there it is. But like I said, this whole video is about stopping is simple. The focus when you stop drinking, and in those first few days, once you stop the flow of alcohol, it's not about the alcohol anymore. Like I said, it's about breaking the habit. It's about the effort that you put into it afterwards. It's about that sequence of events that happens. I told this story a while ago where when we first moved, actually was when I stopped drinking and we were living in an apartment. We had a moped between the two of us. I came over to Spain with a Land Rover, and we ended up with a moped. That's how things were going for us. So living in an apartment, a lovely apartment overlooking the beach, so no complaints there, but we wanted to live in a house. Within a year of stopping drinking alcohol, we started things back moving in the right direction. We got a car, we got a house, and we moved into this house, and we had to buy all this furniture ourselves and kit it out. And one of the things that we bought was a dishwasher, and it didn't have a tube, a water tube coming out of the back, so we had to go and buy one. And I bought one in the local Chinese store. Didn't think too much about it. And generally the Chinese stores around here sell stuff that's not great quality. So I was in bed about a week afterwards, and I thought it was raining outside, and I came down the stairs and this pipe had burst off the back of it was the main water pipe going into the back of the dishwasher, and the place was flooded, and we had a basement. So all the water for hours had been going into the basement, and lucky enough the computer stuff was up off the ground, and but there was still a few inches of water downstairs, and it was all just flowing down. It was nightmaric, as you can imagine, at 2 or 3 in the morning. But the whole point of it was that we had to stop the water straight away, turn off the tap, and then it took us a few days to clear everything out and to dry everything out. It took us, there was a couple of weeks before we dried everything out and repaired the damage. And that's what is basically happening here. You have to stop the flow of the alcohol. You have to clean up or start cleaning up the damage, allowing your body to recover a little bit from what you've been doing, and to allow your body to go into a deep cleanse, so to speak. And it takes time. In the long run, it's all about changing some very basic stuff. So in the short term, what we call in transition, that's when you're hopefully you have a few coping strategies. So you're coping with life. You're coping with life without alcohol. You're coping with life, and it's not so much about you're not having alcohol anymore. It's that you've got to now think of ways of dealing with the things that you were dealing with before. There's the rub. Because if you want to relax now, you can't just crack open a bottle or a tin. You have to do something different. For the first months after I'd stopped drinking alcohol, I was walking for miles every day, 18 miles at a minimum, sometimes over 20 miles, and just walking 3-4 hours a day just to get out and just to keep my mind occupied. And that was the only way I could deal with things. It was the only way I could deal with the thoughts that were going through my mind. But it was a double-edged sword as well, because it was also I also used that time to think, and it gave me a great opportunity to think, out walking on my own every day, just thinking about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to deal with this. But it's not something that is going to happen overnight. You know, that drinker's brain, we call it the drinker's brain because your brain is set up to run in a certain sequence in so many different situations in your life. So your brain is functioning. Let's just take that simple example of relaxing. Your brain is set up to function in a relaxing way only when there's alcohol involved. You know, when there's not alcohol involved, you may relax, but you're not doing it to the same extent, because that is part of the programming that you've programmed into it over the years. You know, we keep saying this, that your habits don't care about, they don't look at at what you're doing, at the behavior in terms of morals. They don't see it as a good or bad. They're just indifferent. It's just the repetition. So the more you repeat something and you do it over and over again, the more deeply that habit is going to, you know, those habit pathways are going to create themselves. So it's slowly breaking apart the old behaviors, the old habits, the old sequences, the old rituals that you've built up, and slowly building up new ones. So, you know, you're I know it's I think probably the best way of saying it is that you have to, in order to move forwards, in order to build the new, you've got to kill some of the old. I always remember somebody telling me years ago that if you want to grow up into a man, you've got to kill the boy within you, you know. And it doesn't mean to say that you can't carry forwards some youthful aspects to your life, youthful values. You know, there's certain things that you do when you're a kid that are virtuous and that can bring you a good life. But there's certain ways of thinking that are just not gonna cut it with being a fully fledged adult of either sex. And that means that you've got to kill that part of yourself that is holding you back into that old self. It's a bit like getting rid of the nappy, getting rid of the training wheels if you want to ride a bicycle, sort of thing, you know. But you're building a new way of living. You're building a new way of thinking, and that takes effort. It takes long-term effort. You know, you can't just do it for 5 minutes. You've got to commit to this for the rest of your life. You know, and it gets easier and easier and easier. It becomes easier. The commitment becomes much more concrete the more you get into it, the more you're responsible for yourself. And like I say, small steps moving you forwards. And, you know, going back to what we were saying earlier, the more you focus on alcohol, the more it's going to handicap you, the more it's going to hold you back, the more it's like a straitjacket around your body. It retards your movement, it retards your growth, it retards any improvement. Now, for me, it was always 1 step forwards, 2 steps back. So, yeah, Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. I don't think there's any questions today. We'll be back again next Monday, I think. Just remember that your growth, any growth that you're going to make after this journey, the simple part of this is to stop drinking. There's just the one choice to make. If you make that choice, then you have to stick to it. Make the choice to move forward. You have to stick to that. Your growth needs commitment. Your life, if you want to build the best possible version of yourself, this has always been now my goal. I mean, I started out with just trying to be a better dad to my son, and then that evolved into being the best dad that I could be, and then that evolved into becoming and trying to live the best version of myself and my life, and that encompasses so much, and then you build on that and you realize that there's certain parts of your life that require balance, that there's certain parts of your thinking, the external and internal, which need congruency, which need to be working together, that the less conflict you have within yourself, the better. But that's something that you learn. You can be taught a lot of this stuff. You can be taught a lot of the basic stuff and how to adapt it to yourself, but the hard work has to be done by you. It's like anything else. When anyone ever says to me, look, you've really helped me to stop drinking alcohol, I say, yeah, I'm showing you the way that I did it, and any of the work that you've ever done is down to you. And it takes a lot of courage to get into it, because you're making that decision is when you truly make the decision and you say to yourself, I'm never going to drink again and I'm committed to improving my life, you're cutting off your access to your old life. When you truly make the decision. I don't mean when you go, oh yeah, well I'm gonna quit because I've got a hangover, I'm gonna quit because of this or because of some pain that I've got. Right, that doesn't work, because as soon as the pain is gone, you're going to go back. That's a fact. In 99% of cases. But if you have responsibility and you take the responsibility for yourself and you say to yourself, no matter what happens, I'm going to fucking do this. There's nothing that's going to hold you back, and then you have to take the action, and you have to take lots and lots and lots of action, and that will take you out the other end, and you'll learn as you're going along and move forward. So anyway, look, take care of yourself, and I will speak to you. We'll be around next week on, I think, Monday at 4:00 Spanish time. So I don't know what that is, but we'll put the video up a couple of days before, so you'll be able to. I think it shows up your time. So take care of yourself, and